Greetings. I welcome you with all my heart. I know we're continuing to have problems with this software. It has something to do with an app that's on some of the browsers and are not, and I don't understand it. It's been explained, but it escapes me. And the problem should be fixed at some point. Enough people will have complained that they'll have put in a fix, but in the meantime, we suffer. I hope everybody that's in is in now, because I want to start. Again, I welcome you with all my heart. I'm so glad you came. You know, each of you comes here for a different reason. Some seek knowledge. Some come here because they feel something in satsang. A lot of people told me they, at least in the past, they used to feel bliss or energies inside of themselves. Others feel peace. Others feel love. Others feel disgust. Others feel all kinds of things. So you may be here because you're seeking something, or you may be here because you feel something, and it's enticing. You know, I've studied under 6 Zen masters and lots of other teachers. Each one had a different effect on me. Thich Thien An, the Vietnamese bishop that I first studied Zen under, and I was made a monk, I felt very little towards him at all. He was just a convenient place to stay. And I use it as a jumping point to start to be with other Zen teachers. I'll tell you, I didn't get much out of Zen. I spent a lot of time in Zen, but there's no real teaching in Zen. There's just being in meditation and living day to day. Living out what you discover in meditation in your daily life. But when I met Muktananda, I felt absolutely nothing. He was this very charismatic guy who was always laughing and joking, sitting among 1,000 people. I felt a tremendous amount of Shakti, but none of it was associated with him. It was associated with the Sangha as a whole, the totality, the chanting, the professed love, the dancing that we did on certain satsangs, the swamis, the announcers, the chanting playing in the background all over the ashram, especially Muktananda style chanting, but there was others. There was a feel in that ashram, a feel of God's grace, of peace, of devotion. And that was also of socialization, like-minded people that were coming together to share each other's truth, to be in the truth together. And the best ashram of all was the first ashram I went to after Zen, which was that of Swami Shankarananda. It was in Los Angeles at that time, in the Hancock Park area, just above Wilshire, about 6 blocks from where I lived, in the International Buddhist Meditation Center. I used to go there and sit and chant. There was Shankarananda, who I just found so delightful. we spent some time together going to other ashrams and temples and so forth, because we were pals to a certain extent. And then there was his assistant Devi at the time. Devi was beautiful. She always looked sort of sad or angry, but I was transfixed by her appearance, sitting across from the men. Men and women sat across from each other. And she seemed to harbor a kind of a secret knowledge or a secret knowing that I always wondered what it was. And the same with Shankananda, who was more ebullient and joyful, but was also silent about his inner state. But I felt captivated by that ashram, those two. And there was another Swami there, I forget his name. And he was very quiet and easy to talk to. And then Baba came to town, and that ashram closed down, and everything moved to a large tent in Santa Monica. There were 1,000 people a night, 1,500 people a night coming. Like I said, I felt nothing from Baba Muktananda. But I felt everything from the Sangha. I loved the chanting. I loved the monks. I loved all the people that were there for a common purpose. I loved the lineup afterwards where you go up and bow to Muktananda, see all the swamis, their smiling faces. It was just a delight. The chanting was so beautiful, so sweet. I just was swept away with devotion myself. It was in the air, it was electric, it was all around us. 1,000 people, 1,500 people at a time, all with devotion towards each other and feeling the devotion in the air, the electricity in the air, the Shakti in the air. You could feel the Shakti, it was palpable, filled one with bliss and excitement. But I felt nothing for Muktananda. Everything for the Sangha itself. It could be the microphone. I'll try to speak louder, but let me Is anybody else having problems with the microphone? Hearing me? No, Spencer? Okay, I'll switch to a different microphone. Oops, I forgot. If I do this, I may lose the odd video. Now I'm trying to see which, there we go, try this one. Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Let me see if I can turn up the volume. Okay. That's as good as I can do. Everything is maxed out. So, with every teacher I felt a different thing. With every ashram I felt something different. And I love the Muktananda ashrams because of their sweetness and the devotion. Zen was cold. It was cold as the Antarctica emotionally. So I had to get out of Zen into the warmth of Siddha Yoga. But with the revolution, with Chitvilasananda taking over after Baba died in the fight with her brother Nityananda, Siddha Yoga was no longer a welcome place for me or most other people. So I was forced out. And for many years I didn't do much in terms of spirituality except be on my own. Until I met Robert. And Robert was quite a different feel altogether. I felt nothing from Robert. There was nothing there. Robert wasn't there. He was in a different world. And I just wondered what that world was like. And that's why I stayed. Because I felt I had found my guru, because he was talking in a way that I understood and yet stretched my understanding, just like Nisargadatta. But I felt nothing. He was sort of like a cold fish. But everybody that comes here usually feels something about this satsang or about me. They feel silence, they feel joy, they feel Shakti, they feel love, they feel hate, they feel anger, they feel disappointment, they feel all kinds of things. Margie, you look very agitated. You still can't hear? So, you go somewhere and you feel something. But is what you're feeling true? In other words, if you feel anger towards me, is it me or is it you? If you feel peace coming into this chat room, is it me or is it you? If you feel love coming into this room, is it me or are you feeling your own love? The essential lesson to be learned is wherever you go and whomever you're in relationship with, you're feeling your own feelings. The other person is not doing it to you. There are a lot of people called empaths who are very open to how other people feel. They feel their emotion and they can't decide whether it's themselves or from the other person. But you're always feeling, for most people, your own feelings. Your feelings towards the other person are your own. They're a result of who you are, your past experiences, what you're looking for, etc. All of these feelings belong to you. The situation is merely a placeholder for which you are able to explore certain feelings. So whatever you experience here, it is for you to explore. Whether it's Shakti, curiosity, anger, love, whatever it is, explore it. Now, I know that when I ran into Janet, she was in love with me. She was a student. Came to Satsang a couple of times, and I could see the love in her actions, in her eyes. And I felt nothing. Until I got to know her. And slowly, my heart began to open. A little bit at first. I even said to her, even the first time we were together, going to the beach, watching the ocean, "Are you going to be the love of my life?" Because I felt an opening in my heart that hadn't been there for years. And we got to know each other more and more through emails, through being at Satsang together, and the very strong reaction that people in Satsang had against her. I don't know what caused it. There are lots of reasons, but she didn't want to come to Satsang anymore because of the negativity expressed towards her. But she and I got along famously. We talked for a long time on Skype or on the phone. And never in my life has anybody made me feel more loved than she did. The love she expressed to me opened me up completely. My heart opened completely. Her heart opened completely. It probably wouldn't have happened if we were actually together physically, because the distance allows for safety. The love became so great, so open, so wide, we began having similar extraordinary experiences at the same time. Like imagining ourselves seeing in front of us actually God, to which we were both bowing, to which we felt most humble and most joyous that God would show his or her face to us. All that we wanted to do was grovel at the foot of God, feeling complete humility, wanting him to crush us beneath his feet in adulation, in adoration of the immensity and the power of God. We both felt the descent of a golden light that seemed to wash away our sins and make us feel pure. It was God's grace, the grace that wiped us clean of all sins and of regret. So many, many things. We could feel the Shakti within spinning about inside. In me, it was going counterclockwise, around inside my chest and around the heart. Also radiating outwards from my heart, through my hands, to her, across 1,800 miles. And she could feel it. She could feel it when I woke up in the morning. I could feel it just before she would call. And this went on for a couple of years. We got together a few times under very supervised management of her husband. And we loved each other. We loved each other totally. We loved each other so that we felt love like neither of us had ever felt before. And the love was so big, so enveloping, so exploding of our hearts, that we felt we were love ourselves. The person was no longer relevant. I had become love. The feeling love enveloped my entire being. I was love. I wasn't Ed. I wasn't a human. I wasn't Janet. I was love. And this grew and grew. It had various colors, various shades, various amounts of bliss, and various depths of love and of surrender. And then she went away. Gradually, she went away. The conflict between being married and having 2 kids and feeling as if she were cheating on the family, especially when the husband said she was cheating by paying attention to me, introduced, what do you call it, kind of dissonance in her, and she had to break away. Until one time, she went to South America to try that drug. I don't know how to pronounce it. And she was gone for a week or two. And something happened. For a few days, I'd been feeling wonderful. I felt happier and happier. And one day, while sitting, I felt energy arising out of my gut. Powerful energy. It felt almost like a personality. It felt like that God that I had experienced before and she had experienced. And it arose within me, slowly, going upwards from my gut towards my heart, like lava exploding out of a volcano, with infinite amounts of light, the light of 100 suns, white light that did not burn, and love at the same time, but mostly a sense of power, of great power. It went up through my heart, into my head, and exploded upwards and outwards. From that day on, I had a constant companion, the life force, an awareness of the life force, or Shakti. From then on, I was accompanied by Shakti, like a big brother, operating through me, feeling this power, feeling the bliss, feeling the energy, feeling the life force, and feeling for the first time, I am. Before that experience, I guess I really didn't know I was. I didn't know I am prior to that. But with the announcement of the life force within me, I could say, I am. I am alive. I have come alive. From nothingness, I have come alive. This is what I call realization of the manifest self. This is recognition of one's own divinity, of the life force within, the Holy Ghost within, the consciousness within associated with the body, but only associated. It was not of the body. It was of a different dimension, a spiritual dimension, manifest consciousness, or what Nisargadatta called the universal consciousness. Could be called Christ consciousness or Krishna consciousness too. It's the recognition of the divinity within, the God within, and eventually an identification with that life force and with that consciousness. That consciousness is God. That life force is that which makes the whole universe go around. And together they walk hand in hand, the life force and consciousness. And both of them exist in our bodies and through our bodies. Well, eventually Janet left altogether. And this state has persisted ever since, of the life force within, the bliss within, the juice within, that allowed satsang to be so delightful when we had satsang. People would feel all kinds of energies within, all kinds of bliss. And I know because of my relationship with Janet, what was actually happening is I wasn't creating bliss within the people in satsang or peace within the satsang, but they were able to recognize it in me and then own it as their own. Because if I were to give it, it could be taken away. But if they recognized a certain state in me, they realized that it was their own state and that they could generate it themselves. Now, when I am in ordinary everyday mind, doing my medical editing or stuff like that, and I notice that I'm not paying any attention to the inside of me, all that I have to do is stop. Remember Janet. Remember God. Remember the feeling of love. Remember the bliss, and within a few minutes, it all comes back. So, the bliss is always there. The Shakti is always there. It's always available. But there's a new movement in me that's been going on for some time now. It's a movement back towards the witness. When it comes to exploration of the manifest self and realization of the manifest self, I've been there and done that. And now I'm moving back to where I was with Robert and the recognition of the witness of consciousness. Not just all the excitement in consciousness, like the Shakti or the bliss, but that which witnesses, that which knows. Now, knowledge of the Absolute is something that very few people want, because it's prior to consciousness. There's no experience in this understanding, in this state. It's beyond consciousness or before consciousness. And people have the imagination of how boring it must be. It's like death, to not have all these exciting possibilities, to not be able to wake up in the morning next to someone you love, or next to your dog, or next to your cat, and not being able to experience that anymore. And they start running like hell. So the final teachings of Advaita and the final teachings of Zen are not for the faint of heart. They are not meant for those who still have a long, active life ahead of themselves, of service, of love, of career, of family, etc. Because it's a time to change one's focus from being without to being within, looking within, feeling within, feeling one's heart, and feeling what's behind the heart. And by falling backwards into the self, to gradually lose distance from your humanity, to take the position of beyond humanity. Now, Nisargadatta, if you read his early books, like Self-Knowledge and Self-Realization, talks about bliss, talks about the energies, talks about devotion. But the later Nisargadatta does no such thing. He talks about beingness, the I am that's in beingness, and going beyond beingness, going beyond love, going beyond existence, to the depths of self. You might call the absolute that he talks about what psychologists call the executive function. For human beings, we start off life with no fixed objects in our perceptual field. Mother takes a while to recognize. It's a combination of seeing her face, of touching, of hearing her voice, smelling her body. Eventually, maybe after 6 months, we fully know Mother. After 3 years, we begin to know ourselves, that we are alive, we exist. Prior to that, it's all instinct. But then we become a body. We become a Michael, or an Ed, or a Spencer, or a Margit. And we believe we are our bodies. Because consciousness is always in close association with our bodies. And yet, the ironic thing is our body is something that we see in our consciousness, even from the beginning. Even from the beginning, when we're 3 or 4-year-olds, we see the body as an experience within the totality of our conscious field. And we also feel the body from inside. So in a sense, it's a unique experience in our sense field. And because we feel the body from the inside, we see our body from the outside, and we see other bodies, we make all kinds of assumptions about the existence of solid bodies and personalities within those bodies. But all that we ever know is consciousness. All that we ever know are our sensual experiences of sight, sound, smell, touch, taste, and intuition. We never know the object in itself. Even when we feel the body from the inside, we experience the body as an object and not us. We look at our hand, and can we say, this hand is us? We look at our arm, and we feel our arm. Can we say that that arm is me? Or do we say, I have that arm? It is my arm. But it is certainly not me. And we can do that search inside for me, to no avail. We can feel that feeling of I amness inside. Most people can't feel it at first. But you can feel the feeling of I am inside. And you can focus on the I am sensation. And that's a form of meditation. It's the meditation form I've been teaching for a long time, of locate the I am sense inside the chest where you first feel it, because that's where the body makes contact most closely with consciousness through the tactile sense. That's the knot of ego, which when dissolves, frees you from identification with the body. And you can re-identify with consciousness itself. Now, why would one want to do this? Why would one want to disidentify with the body and re-identify with consciousness? Well, for the first reason, when you identify yourself with the body, you always want something. You're always busy wanting something. Whether it's food, sleep, sex, knowledge, attainment, career, activities. From morning to night, it's always activities having to do with the body and what's happening with the body. My career, my climb up the corporate ladder, my fulfilling my fantasies of my best job that I could think of, getting in a relationship, falling in love, having children, having a possession of a house, doing this and doing that, seeking knowledge. Knowledge about the external world, not knowledge about ourselves. And then, sometimes for some of us, it seems like that's a complete waste of time. The external world is a sham. It's filled with a world of Trump-like figures that you can't quite figure out. It's a world so bizarre to us that we know something is wrong with this external world. And so we start seeking for truth. What is the true nature of our reality? Who are we? How do we fit in? And thus begins the search for self-realization, self-knowledge. And it's a path that's very perilous because although we seem to make some progress, no matter which way we go, with whatever teacher we go, that progress usually dries up after a short period of time, and we start looking elsewhere. We read Osho, or we read Krishnamurti, or we read Nisargadatta, and it grabs our attention. And it allows us to get diverted from the spiritual depth we had attained, whatever path we were choosing, and start a new one, which seems more interesting, and in which we have not burnt out yet. No matter what spiritual path you take, no matter what methods or practices you try, you will encounter difficulties that will make you want to quit. Long periods of dryness, the feeling of no progress whatsoever, so you'll want to quit. You want to try some other teacher, some other path, some other method. And you quit. And maybe you go off and do something on your own. You involve yourself in your career or in a relationship, and everything is fine for 2 or 3 years until the spiritual itch comes back to you and you want to know who you are, and this time you're bursting with this drive to find out who you are, but this drive is really external. You're looking for some external support in the external world to bring you into yourself, and it just doesn't work that way. No matter where you go, deep stuff is coming out of you in reaction to whatever situation you're in. So in a sense, you're producing your own drama for you to investigate at every moment to find out what is the source of that drama. It's just that when you go to a spiritual teacher, like Robert or Nisargadatta, that shit happens more quickly, more intensely. So much so you might want to leave because your world is so upset by it that you can't take the change. Before, it was boring and nothing was happening, but when you're with the right teacher, things happen so fast and so furiously, you don't know whether you can take it anymore. So you try a new path. New path is Osho or some other current big teacher, Adya, Shanti, or some of the other ones. And you go there, and I know people that have gone there, and they come to me looking for another teacher. But what they are doing is just traveling, seeking in the external world a map to themselves. But the self is always there, always throwing shit up for you to look at. And the only teacher you need is someone that says, just keep looking within. You can never lose by looking within. You can look within to try to find that sense of self, the I amness. Or you can just sit quietly by yourself, watching how desperately the body wants to move and how many thoughts are crowding into your head. Sitting quietly is very difficult for most people because the mind is very noisy and their body wants to jump around and do things. And you can only really move beyond this until after you learn how to sink your consciousness into your body so that it gets away from the head and begins opening your heart. That's why falling in love can be such a big, big help in the spiritual trip. And that seems sort of anti-intuitive because we tend to think of love as a trap. We tend to think of personal love as something to stay away from because it's not spiritual. It's erogenous, it's dirty, it's irritating, all that kind of stuff. And you become so attached. And what we're trying to get is freedom. But that love we have for another person, whether it's a friend, a lover, a husband, a wife, a guru, a political figure, whoever, whatever, Gandhi, your cat, your dog, it opens up the heart. It opens up your heart. It makes it possible for you to feel love. And to feel love long enough so that the heart is used to be open. And someday it might grow to the point, after repeated heartbreaks, where your heart is given freely and fully to another without hesitation. And when you have that such ease in giving of your heart, of surrendering to another, self-realization is really easy then. That's why the path of bhakti, of bhakta, is so powerful. It doesn't take the mind, it doesn't take meditation, it doesn't take anything except utter devotion and surrender. And by that I don't mean acting out, just feeling it inside. Feeling the devotion, feeling the surrender, and opening of the heart. But it takes repeated heartbreaks over and over again where there's disappointment, there's pain, and each time you go back to love, and you can love a little deeper because you've been through the break once, you've been through the break twice, you've been through the disappointment 3 times, 4 times. Your heart keeps opening and breaking, opening and breaking, opening and being hurt, opening and being hurt, until, as Rumi says, God keeps breaking your heart until it stays open. Then you're open to everything. Then you're an open book. You can say anything. You can talk about your love affairs. You can talk about your dirtiest secrets. You can tell about all your failures. You can talk openly about it. You can be open about anything because nothing can hurt you. Your heart is totally open and accepts everything. This is the first stage of enlightenment. And it's usually considered a psychological stage, a stage of developing your individuation as a person and learning how to love and live from that point of view in an open and compassionate way. And a guru will work on you until your heart opens over and over and over again. Some do it very brutally, like what was that guy's? Adida, through forced sex, through forced marriages, etc. But that kind of student-teacher relationship is so bad, so terrible, so terrifying. There's got to be a gentleness in there. There's got to be a caring in there. And you have to love each other. Not just love everybody in your life, but you know you can't be open to everybody in your life. You can only be open to a few people. Your parents is a given, and you may have difficulty with one or the other of them, but the people that come along that you fall in love with, each one presents an opportunity to open you to the divine within you. Now, I used to be a sucker when it came to love. I'd fall desperately in love once a year, head over heels in love with some woman. And always it was disappointment. Because of my social ineptitude, I really didn't know how to act. I didn't know how to behave. I was kind of clumsy. And then for many years, I was lost in the emptiness brought about by Zen meditation and knowing emptiness and not having relationships. And then I met Janet, who was able to open up as quickly and as easily as I did and allow that flame of love to burn. And it purified each of us in its own way. So you're lucky if you can love somebody that can love you back as strongly as you do, because it's a quick way to that first stage of enlightenment, of the recognition or the realization of the manifest self of consciousness and the life force dancing together. Are there any questions? Any answers? Okay, then let's do a chant. A short chant. Let's do... Okay. And just feel. Go inside your heart. And feel deeply as much as you can.
Sitaram, Sitaram, Ram Ram, Sitaram. Ram Ram, Sitaram, Ram Ram, Sitaram, 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 Ram Ram, Sitaram. Bolo Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Bolo Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Ram Ram, Sitaram, Ram Ram, Sitaram, 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 Ram Ram, Sitaram. Ram Ram, Sitaram, Ram Ram, Sitaram, 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 Ram Ram, Sitaram. Ram Ram Ram, Sitaram, Ram Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Ram. Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram. Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram. Bolo Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Bolo Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
may be impossible to do question and answers given the problems with the software. Until it's fixed, we're going to have problems at Satsang. A lot of you are only passively able to watch this and can't even enter your name, a username. But you can hear the chanting and you can hear my voice, so at least something's working. But if anybody has a question and you're in the room and you can ask it, please do so. Otherwise, you can always email me at satsang.online@gmail.com and I can answer your questions. Are there any questions? And not only that, since there is so much difficulty with hearing, I will process this video and post it within a few hours so they can hear it. It takes a while to upload it, process it and upload it. And that way Margit doesn't have to seem so agitated trying to listen when she can't hear. And Spencer can stop smiling at the chaos here. You remind me of Robert. He'd always have a little smile on his face because there's always chaos around him. And he was always smiling at people getting upset about the chaos. But I love you all, and I don't think there's any sense in continuing this until we get the software fixed so that I can answer questions. I know that Suki says my heart has been broken so many times I feel incapable of loving because I don't trust anymore. That's a common thing for people. Everybody experiences that. And it's that fear that prevents us from getting into relationships. But trust me, the time will come when you'll fall in love again. And this time, go for it. Open yourself up as completely as possible. Don't stick your toe in, one toe at a time, to see how it is and keep feeling your way into it. Just drop into it. Just leap into it. Don't and make a leap of death. Pretend that this is going to kill you, because it might. But what it will kill is that residual fear of yours of being in relationship. I talk about the need for openness all the time. My background is as a psychologist for over 20 years as a practicing psychologist. So unlike most Westerners that come from the Eastern spiritual tradition, I don't downplay emotions. I think you need to use emotions to open yourself up. I've known so many spiritual teachers that are totally closed when it comes emotionally. There's not only that, there are so many that are closed to sex. There are so many close to love. I'm reading the memoirs of my friend Shankarananda, who studied under Baba Haridas and others, and they had such weird attitude towards sex and towards love, to avoid it at all costs, and to conserve the semen, and to have no desire for love or sex or neediness, and just build all that power within you. I mean, that's a complete waste of life so far as I'm concerned. That life at every moment offers you an opportunity to open up and not to close down and focus down like intense meditation on the I, but instead to relax and open your heart to the I. Open your heart to the I within you, to yourself, to your own love, to your own quest for truth. Be true to yourself. Don't focus down. Don't concentrate. Don't contract yourself. Open yourself. Open yourself. Anyway, I truly say this, I truly love you all. I love that you come here to listen to me even though I don't have anything to say. You listen to my bullshit, pretend it's real. And that's good. I'm fooling you, and good. We get along that way. We're a great family. I'm the bullshitter and you're the bullshittees. Take care. I love you. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. And I'll try to get the tape up before the end of the day. Bye-bye.